For this video, I wanted to make an art piece similar to my UFO one, but with a different subject and environment. I had this idea to put a spaceship sinking into the ocean with a strong orange and blue color palette. And if you haven't noticed already, those are my favorite kind of colors to work with. To get all the images and 3D models I would need, I went over to Envato Element's stock photo library. Here's what I got. Anyways, with all that out of the way, enjoy the video. So to start off, I found this image of a beach from Envato Elements that I really liked, so I used that for my base plate. Next, I removed these people on the right side because I wanted it to be deserted. After that, I found this image of a sky that I liked way more than the one on the base plate, so I replaced it with that one. Next, I used content-aware fill to erase this boat in the background, and then used curves to match the base image with the sky. Next, I'll add in my main subject, which is a spaceship I got from Envato Elements. Then, I'll use the pen tool to submerge part of the ship into the water. And to make the edge go around the waves a little more, I'll use the pen tool to erase what I don't want. Then, to color correct the ship, I started using curves and color balance. Then, I wanted to make some accurate reflections, so I duplicated the sky and the water and wrapped it around the ship, and then used blend if to match the reflections to the ship. Next, I clipped an exposure adjustment layer to the ship to darken areas where I thought would catch the least amount of light. Next, I added some darker shadows around the edge of the plane, and then I added some more shadows on top of the ocean. Now here, I use a soft light color fill layer to darken some of the areas that I want. Next, I add this rust image over the plane to give it a little more texture. Then, I add a lot of light bloom in the sky by making an orange color fill layer and changing the blending mode to linear dodge add. And to make the ship blend in a little more to the scene, I add some highlights on the parts that I think would be catching the sun the most. Next, I painted in some highlights around the ship where I thought it would be darker than how it is already. I did the same thing with the highlights. To then sell the idea that the ship had crashed into the water, I needed a way to connect the images, so I duplicated the ocean layer and used blend if to isolate the foam. Then I put it around the areas that had just made contact with the surface of the ocean. Then I wanted to make these blue areas on the plane pop more, so what I did was make a solid blue color layer, changed its blend mode to linear dodge add, and painted all the areas that I wanted to glow. Then to actually make these parts glow, I made another linear dodge add color layer, but this time I used a darker blue and a soft round brush to paint over the areas that I wanted to bloom. And to make these seem a little more brighter, I use an exposure layer to color in the center of the lights. Next, I wanted to frame my subject a little more, so I added these palm trees which I got from Envato Elements. And then I used curves to match them to the rest of my scene, as well as a hue and saturation layer to add some highlights. I also added some field blur to give the scene some more depth. I start working on the reflection of the ship by duplicating and flipping the subject layer. I then use perspective warp to change the angle the ship is displayed at. Then I used Liquify to displace the reflection to somewhat match the flow of the waves. I also used Blend If to tweak how much of the reflection you actually see. Then to add some more light bloom around the water, I use a blue hue and saturation layer to paint more light around the already glowing areas of the water. I also added this picture of a planet in the sky to give some more detail to the composition. Next, I added some smoke around the plane to infer that it had crash landed in the water. I did this by using a cloud brush at around 14% flow and changing some brush settings to scatter so all the smoke was more random. The right side of my composition was feeling a little empty, so I got this image of an island and started color matching it to the rest of my scene. After this was done, I was almost completely finished. I just needed to add some particles and a camera raw filter.